It's the third kind of fear that does us in. It's called illusory fear. And illusory fear works like this. May we have the next video, please? Now, what I'd like you to do is to stare at the plus sign. So keep your eyes right on the plus sign and notice the dot turns green that's going around. You see it? Keep your eyes on the plus sign. And do you notice that the green dot starts to make some of the other dots disappear? Yes or no? That's good. Okay, you can stop it. Now, there is no green dot, and nothing disappears. So something within us creates an illusion. So here's what when I talk about illusory fear, I call fear the great trickster. And the great trickster is able somehow to work its dark magic within us, to take fear that is illusory and make us think it's fear that is primitive, so that we react in ways that are self-destructive. Let me give you an example of what I mean by illusory fear. Fear of rejection. How many of you have the fear of rejection? I'll start. I do. Right? Come on, put your hands up if you have the fear of rejection. Everybody has a fear of rejection. Right? Is that bad? No. Everybody has a fear of rejection, so what? But if it's an illusory fear, that means the fear is so strong that I am going to make choices that create the fear to be true, and I will never know it because that's why it's called the great trickster. For example, if I tried to dominate, bully, and control you in this room, what would you do or want to do? Leave, sit, or punch me in the face. Right, you would. That would separate us as human beings, wouldn't it? So that would only happen, me being a bully, only would happen if I was so deeply afraid of being rejected that I had to dominate and control. You see the trick, right? Because if you try to dominate and control someone, jealousy, all that stuff, the person goes away and you go, what happened? Nobody likes me. What happened? My intention is to give you some tools to sharpen your imagination so that your influence as a leader in your cause is ramped up, your ability to communicate in all areas of your life will be raised, and your ability to work as a fundraiser and as a direct marketer will also be increased. And we're going to start with a question. And the question is, if you had a magic wand and could change one thing within the next 6 months that would have a positive impact on your life and help advance your cause, what would that change? What would you change? Now, you don't have to answer that question now, but we're going to end this program with an answer to that question. Here's how we're going to do it. And I'm going to give you the tools to do this. I'm going to have you answer the question in one paragraph, as if you have already achieved it. And you'll understand why I'm doing that when you understand how the mind works. And then I'm going to have you write down an action step. I'm going to have you seal this in an envelope, address it to yourself, leave it by the door, and it's going to be mailed back to you in 1 month. Now, what's going to happen between this question and that experience? We're going to start looking at the imagination, and we're going to begin with my least favorite demonstration. Where you choose to focus unleashes the power of your imagination to create an experience, your experience. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, at the count of 3, I'm going to take a bite out of this lemon. And I want you to imagine, to pretend that you have a lemon, as a child would do. 1, 2, 3. How many of you, either just before I bit the lemon, at the very moment I bit the lemon, or slightly after I bit the lemon, had some sort of reaction to that? Just raise your hands. All right, put your hands up high. Now look around. Look around. Thank you. I asked 500 people to imagine something, and over 90% of you created a biochemical, neurological change in your body with your mind in less than 1/10 of a second. That's like a miracle. That's the power of communication. And I did that through words. You do it through marketing. Nothing wrong with fear of failure. It's lesson learning, it's opportunity. But if I'm driven by the fear of failure, what won't I take? Risk, no growth, right? The other side of that, I take stupid risks without a vision. But the big one is the fear of change. And the reason the big one is the fear of change is because that's growth. The more we're pressed into doing something new, the more we need to change. The more we need to change, the more resistance there can be unless we know how to work with change. Do me a favor, put your hands together like this. Take them apart, move them over one digit, put them back together, and shout out the adjectives that describe the difference from here to here. Awkward, uncomfortable, unbalanced. Now make a fist and press it against the palm of your hand for me. A little pressure. Now I didn't say to resist with your other hand, did I? You just did that, naturally. So resistance to change is natural and does not have to stop us from changing. Let me talk a little about how do we break through change. Well, first of all is to recognize this. Not only change, fear, every fear that dominates us gives us something. So the question to ask is, what's the payoff for the fear? Who or what do I get to avoid? Because there's always a payoff. The second question is really wonderful. What's the worst that can happen, and am I willing to have it happen? It's called a reality check. Then there's primitive fear, which is fight or flight. And it's there for a reason. We had to, thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, we had to have that. If we were accosted by an animal, we had to be able to, the hormones that shoot, the chemicals that shoot, we had to either fight or we have to run away. Now, in order for me to talk about this, I'm going to show you a little part of a video I made on risk-taking. And I have to set this up by saying that out of all the fears that I have in life, heights is right up there at the tippity top. So I decided, through my never-ending creativity, to make a video on how to take risks. But in order to make the video, I had to choose what I'm most scared of, jumping out of a plane. So I hired Oprah Winfrey's crew, and I flew out to California, and we spent the whole day doing this. So here's the little clip that will kind of give you an idea of what went on, whenever you're ready.
Now I'm starting to feel some real anxiety right down to my guts, feeling a little nauseated here. Yeah. And I'll tell you, this is the difference about taking a fear. You have the thought, you do all the training in the world, but I got to tell you something. Action is the only thing that makes this real. Action. And that's going through with it. And I got to tell you right now, I'm having a few doubts. Yeah. Oh, gee. Whoa! Oh.
Go around!
Yeah, I'm real
Not
scared.
too short.
Now, what would have made me do this? Well, I'll tell you what would have, and that is my vision of what I wanted to do to make a difference.